introduce ourselves quickly and give you guys the reasons why we feel like we're qualified to talk about writing and money, and then we'll get started. This is Erin Steele.
I'm a financial advisor in town and a business owner at Flaherty Financial Services. I've been in the industry 12 years and have my securities license and the insurance license.
I am Melissa Tenley. I'm one of the co-owners of Self-Publishing Services, and I am an aspiring author. I actually have self-published a couple of short stories, and I have an interest in publishing a longer format novel. And I have lots and lots of questions about what I can actually expect to get paid for any of the work that I might put out there. Because as much as it is a labor of love, it would really be nice if it was a labor of money too.
Yes.
I'm Claire Wood. I am an owner of Self-Publishing Services also. I also have 2 short stories out, and I'm working on a historical novel, and I'm very curious to hear about this money stuff.
Hi, my name is Danica Winters. I write for HarperCollins and Simon & Schuster, as well as self-publishing. I've been in the industry for about a decade now. I'm a publisher, weekly bestseller, Nielsen Bookscan bestseller, Walmart bestseller, Amazon bestseller, like, cool. Yeah, that stuff. I'm a general clown, so you can ask me anything. And I'm wearing my favorite socks today, so if you want to see them, they're pretty cool. I went to work as a marketing director for a publishing company out of Seattle when I started about a decade ago. I was in there for 3 years, and they offered me half the company, and I said, nope, I'm starting my own. And that is how Self-Publishing Services got started. Because I just felt like the traditional publishing world, as much as I love it, sometimes isn't always concerned about the best interests of our authors. So I wanted to be a company that stood up tall and proud of what we do, and be there for our authors as much as humanly possible. And several of our authors are actually, well, a couple of our authors are actually here right now, so that's pretty cool. As a barometer for how much we care. So, did you want to get started?
Yes, I will just get started, and I'm going to start off by saying that something that absolutely shocked me when I first started writing and started meeting with more business-savvy authors is that I am not just a writer. What am I, Erin?
You're a business owner.
I'm a business owner!
You're a unicorn.
Holy crap, what does that mean?
Yay! That means you're responsible for all aspects of running and operating a business, which includes fun things like taxes and health insurance. I'm not the exciting one, am I, on this panel? And health insurance and saving for retirement and budgeting. All those fun things are what you now get to do when you step into that role of being a business owner.
And that's really hard to think of because when you look at the income, such as it is from writing, it's very inconsistent. And it can be really hard to judge what's coming in and what's going out. So how do I, as somebody who would be really new to this, try to start setting up a good foundation with a budget and anticipating expenses and even thinking that someday I might get to retire?
Right? This is a great question. Budget. You're going to hear me say it over and over and over again. And it's identifying all of the reasonable expenses associated with operating the business, right? So if that's travel to and from a conference, if that's registration at events, if that's part of the telephone bill, budgeting is going to become your best friend. It'll also allow you to anticipate those slower months. So when we talk about things like a inconsistent income stream, budgeting is your best friend.
Okay.
What's the best way to go about that? Like, is it a marketing plan? Is it like a spreadsheet? What do you recommend?
Yeah, there's a couple of great online resources. Mint.com has some pretty interactive templates that I think are really favorable, especially if you're brand new to budgeting. And then good old Excel. I know. If you don't like either of those, if technology, you want to move away from that, get out a pencil and paper and just start writing down all of your expenses for a month. And if you don't know what those are, go back into your bank statement and start taking a look. Look at 3 months of a bank statement and pull out 3 different colors of highlighters and start highlighting them all into categories. And then before you know it, you'll have a reasonable anticipated budget in place. And anywhere from forecasting for a quarter, which is pretty reasonable, to a full year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's think about in terms of, I'm a brand new author. Let's just dive into a little case study here. Let's say I'm a brand new author and I have submitted my work to a publishing company that said, this looks awesome. We're gonna sign you and we're gonna give you a $5,000 advance,
I
which
want to
is
find that publishing company.
Yeah, me too. That seems to be at one of these other workshops. How to do that part? We'll have to hit that one next. So based on the research that we've done and that we have some experience in, $5,000 for most fiction genres is fairly typical. It can range from $5,000 to $15,000 for your first advance. But usually. Occasionally lightning will strike and you will get that $1 million deal, but that is very unlikely. But that does not mean that they write you a check for $5,000. Because there are a few things that you have to take into consideration. Do you want to talk about that?
I can talk about it, sure. So my very first novel was put on the computer, right, tick, 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 and it was still in the self-addressed stamped envelopes. Like I was right at that cusp between digital and old school traditional publishing. So I sent off to all these publishers. I was so excited, didn't even think about an agent, just sent it out because I didn't know a single author. I got 5 offers for publishing from traditional homes.
Wow.
And I was like, yes, yes, I have made it. I am the coolest cat ever. Okay. So I picked the one. They had a crummy website, but again, it was kind of that cusp point, and I was like, eh. And they offered me an advance. $200, baby. Yeah. I don't ever tell these stories because it's so embarrassing. Sorry. And I was like, yes. And being the cool cat that I thought I was like, okay, so I'm going to take that $200 and I'm going to go to a lawyer, which, smart, right? Because I'm going to get this contract totally nitpicked by a lawyer because I want to see the loopholes, I want to see everything. And she looked at the contract and she's like, are you sure that this is who you want to publish with? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a cool cat. I'm going to publish because it's money, right? Okay, fast forward 6 months. Money never arrives. Right? I had to call the owner of the publishing company to ask for my advance, and I cried.
Oh no.
No, it was ugly. Yeah. Fast forward 10 years, still know the owner of the company. Her company has since evolved several times,
Wow.
and now she's an agent. So if you want that name, I can help you out.
Did
there.
she ever pay you your $200?
Finally, yes. Yes. But it was mishandled. It was so mishandled. But that's like one of those learning opportunities in publishing that nobody talks about because A, you're under contract and you cannot talk about it. And B, it's embarrassing and it makes you look bad, right, as an author because you're like, I want to be the cool cat that is the coolest and I'm Lee Child, right? No. I'm sorry, that is just not the case normally for the first 5 years. So yeah, I mean, traditional publishing is definitely hit or miss. Money is hit or miss. They promise you things. Okay, so going back to the money aspect of things because I can tell stories all day long. It's my job. Fast forward to HarperCollins, who I traditionally publish with now. They're great, but getting in is 1%. She's with HarperCollins as well. HarperCollins owns Harlequin, which is nice ones. So I don't know about for her. I can't tell you how much money I make. It's under contract that it's pretty quiet, but I get a third of it when I sign my contract of my advance. I get a third when I turn in my proposals for the upcoming novels because I sell on blurbs now. And then I get a third when they've accepted and finalized the manuscript, which could be 18 months from when I initially sell, or more. Right now I think I'm about 2 years out from that last third. So it looks like this volume of money, but really it's spread out over 2 or 3 years.
So
it can be.
If we go back to our fictional scenario where your contract is $5,000, first you have to split that into 3. Then you have to take, if you have an agent, 15% out of that.
Yes.
Because your agent will take that amount of money. And then you have to take taxes out of that. And when you're self-employed, what happens to your tax amount that you have to pay?
Typically it goes up. because you're now responsible for other taxes that your employer probably paid previously. Which is kind of a good transition into when you go into self-employment, it's good to start thinking in ratios. Anytime we're talking about contracts, it's good to think in ratios. What percentage of this paycheck, what percentage of this advance is going to go to taxes? What percentage is going to go to retirement savings? What percentage is going to go to outsourcing other professionals like the attorney,
Yes.
which is brilliant. You know,
And I have an attorney and an agent, to be clear, because they have different jobs for me, so,
Yeah.
sorry.
that's huge, but that's huge. That's half the battle because, right, you're writers and you're now business owners. You don't have time to be a full-time attorney and a full-time CPA and a full-time advisor, right? You have to be able to find those trusted colleagues.
So if you just put numbers to it, which I did because I was curious about that, from that $5,000, after you subtract out your agent fees and your taxes and you divide by 3, you're getting approximately $1,200 spread out in 3 chunks, spread out over 18 to 24 months. So clearly this is not something that's going to allow you to quit your day job on book 1.
Or book 10. Or book 10.
Well, so then that's the next question is a $5,000 contract is pretty great. I mean, I would be really proud of that if somebody offered me that. At what point is it safe for me to say, okay, I have a pretty consistent base here, like I've sold the first one. What kind of pace do I need to keep up? What happens to the average amount of those contracts as you continue to publish? And what happens to your sales in the grand scheme of things when you have more than one book out there?
It really was me. Okay, so back to that $200 advance thing. That book is dead, okay? But I have gotten rights back from other books that were traditionally published in my very formative years, right? I have self-published those through our company, which has been an awesome experience, really. It's been super duper easy. I'm like, hey, subcontractor X, can you do this? And I write them a check. It's all done. Anyhow, so that book, that series has made me more in a month than it ever did with no marketing. Okay, now that's not my MO, but my dog died. Okay, my 18-year-old dog died, and I'm like, I can't market. So I had set up a budget for marketing, but I have not used it. But to give you a ratio, I make 70% off cover price, self-publishing. Traditional publishing, it is way lower. I probably make, what, 35, 40? What do you, Susan? 35?
Pennies per.
And then the paperbacks, I think I make 6 cents a paperback.
Yeah.
It's like crazy low.
I
So-
get 32 cents.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm like, why do I fight so hard to be traditionally published sometimes?
It was
Because
fun.
it is fun, and I'm gonna continue doing it. But like, it's nice to have my backlist put up self-publishing and become what is called a hybrid author. I do very well doing it that way because that way I can stipend my income. I can use that money that I know I'm gonna have to pay taxes on and invest it in myself instead of paying taxes on it, and be smart about my money. And I talk to my CPA, and we sit and have honest conversations like, how can I save from paying $10,000 this year in taxes, or $20,000, or whatever? And she's like, well, invest in yourself, do advertising. So by then, you'll see a lot of my stuff on Facebook in December. But yeah, absolutely, invest in yourself, be honest with yourself about what you're gonna make, and try to stipend your income as much as you can if you're trying to go traditional. And that's why, this is actually kind of how this got started too, because I had not signed with a major traditional Big 5 when we started. And so I was like, okay, how can I make $1,000, right? Like, and that's where it grew from, so, yeah.
And so that's a really good question when you talk about some of those expenses in the marketing, is that the other, I think, misconception, financially speaking, for authors is that, oh, I've signed with somebody, they're gonna just put it out there and sell it, and the sales will be through the roof. What I have learned
Who's
is
traditionally published in this group first? You are, and you are,
Published.
and
But I'm self-published.
self-published, and who are you published with?
Well, okay, that's.
Okay, all right, you don't have to answer, I don't need to be on the spot.
I vote for television, I vote for CD
Okay.
channels, still get paid
Nice.
$1 a year or something,
Yes.
$10 a year.
So
which
you're
means I
rolling.
can deduct anything I want. I can deduct Netflix and
Right?
because I'm a screenwriter.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. That's really cool.
And I self-published, I made $100,000 on my first book.
Right?
Wow.
I mean,
But
it's
that
great.
was so esoteric, nobody can do that.
It is unusual to make that kind of
It
money
is, yeah.
self-publishing.
And
Yeah.
now I self-publish, and I used to write for like magazines like Blue, but now I self-publish and I do fairly well.
Yeah, I love it. I can't recommend it enough. And it's such a positive experience usually for people. I mean, some people just hate it. I mean, you're never gonna change that. There's people that hate traditional publishing, like they hate it with every cell of their body because they have no control.
But either way, you're gonna have to market.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing me back to
Yes. And so, what does that budget look like for marketing when you're a first-time author versus when you have a backlist? And like, it would seem to me that those would kind of change, because when you're a first-time author, you have no platform. More than likely, if you're traditionally publishing, the company is not gonna spend that much money to put you out there. But then once you're a little more established, you have a bigger name, you have a bigger email list, you have more built-in.
Well, I think that goes back to Erin and setting up for me, it was setting up a budget. And which I think is-
Technology is probably playing a huge role as well. So typically it used to be anywhere from 10 to 20% is what you would hear. 20%, I've met very few business owners that are actually spending 20% of their operating budget on marketing. Now, with the increase of technology and the access that we all have to it, you could probably get away with 3 to 5% of your operating budget. Maybe a little bit more initially starting out, right? Just to get yourself out there. You can, I am not a CPA. Are there any CPAs in the room? I will give a disclosure here that I, once again, am not a CPA. I would recommend consulting with a CPA. But there are travel expenses, similarly to how this gentleman had mentioned the deduction for certain bills that may come in. There are oftentimes other expenses that you can tie into marketing to where you can take those as a deduction as well.
like even driving here today for
Right.
any of you that has a business license is a deduction. So your gas mileage is a deduction. Your meal today is a deduction. Your clothes aren't. I tried that one already. It didn't work.
Unless it's a uniform.
They're like, you were gonna wear those anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It happens, and I'm like, but
I was gonna try that.
No, it doesn't.
Too bad you walked past Hide and Soul before you came here.
So, do you guys know if the deduction is linked to the particular book when you're?
It's under your business license.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have a business license, but you're,
It's really, really easy in this state to get a business license.
okay.
LegalZoom, baby.
Mhm.
All the way,
Okay,
it's like $100
so
bucks.
then it's just your income as an author, and then your whatever you link to that is deductible, but you don't have to divide it out book by book.
No, not at all.
It's more by category.
Yeah, so for us, I run my personal expenses differently than I run SPS expenses. SPS expenses, we have it down to professional fees, we have it down to operational costs. I mean, we have it, it's nailed. It's really, really good because we run it through QuickBooks. My personal writing isn't big enough. I get paid nicely, but I don't have enough of the little income and exports things to really validate using QuickBooks, so I just do it through Excel. But I have 5 breakdowns. I use it every year. I've had it for the last 8 years. So when she's talking about budgeting, I can look back to 2010 and be like, okay, what did I spend on marketing that year? And what did I spend on marketing in 2011? And see the growth or the decline in whatever is going on. So it's kind of nice to use those spreadsheets to follow and track your growth as an author and to expect costs. Did you do that, Gwen? Girlfriend.
I know, I'm here.
I've been following her on Twitter. I met her at Mountain Book Festival last
Like,
year,
2 years ago.
2
I
years
think,
ago,
yeah.
and she's since published. Yay! Yeah, I'm very proud of her. So yes, but she's been all over the world. You should track those expenses.
Yeah, so, well, question then. So if you do get traditionally published through their small press or big five or whatever, then you yourself, once you've been published, they take care of, taking out the percentage that you get your royalties or whatever. And then you still set up a business, like I set up my Gwen Nix CLLC or whatever, and then I deduct from there? Or how does that
EIN
work?
as well, Erin?
Fairly well, yeah.
Okay, you explain that.
So an EIN is an employer identification number. Once again, I'm not a CPA, so no. It's actually really easy. You can do it within a couple of minutes online now. It's pretty slick. I did it when I went out on my own and opened my own business. And everything. There's two pieces to this. So once you have your EIN, then you can also open up a separate bank account, which I think is critical, because then you're going to keep any incoming and outgoing monies that are associated with the business through that separate account, and anything personal, especially if anyone's married or has dependents, keeping that personal separate from that business is going to be really slick. You're also going to be able to utilize other programs like QuickBooks, which was mentioned I think earlier, and there's some other marketing tools that all integrate now with technology, so that's huge. But it's honestly, it's like point and click and enter in information, and then all of a sudden you have an EIN which is tied directly to your business name, which is registered through the state in which you reside. Thank you.
And you'll use that to open your
Yeah.
account.
Correct. Yes, you will need that
Also,
information.
space, you get it for free.
What?
E&I numbers for free.
Yes.
There are websites in there that look like IRS, but they'll charge you.
No, they are free. They're
Yeah.
absolutely
But I
free.
mean,
And you
there's
can have like
there's a
5
company
years.
out there that'll do it for you, but it makes it look like they're internal
Yeah.
revenue, and they're not, and they charge you $150.
Thank you for bringing that.
Yeah.
Start with your state.
Revenue,
Yep,
internal
go
revenue.
through your state first off, and then all those links will be off of your state's website. Yeah.
Susan?
I have a question. When you guys talk about your marketing budget, what kind of marketing do you find is actually helpful and doesn't use up all of your time that you would have spent writing?
I'm so excited. Like, so actually, when I'm really busy, right now I'm not really busy. I am like personally, but like I don't have books coming out this year. But when I have major book coming, like I have 5 in a year, I hire a PR company. Not gonna lie, SPS is not a PR company. I hire Writerspace. They're phenomenal. They took my newsletter list from 500 to about 20,000. So when I have a release day and I have my
And your dog.
and my dog has not died, I can actually probably hit the top 5,000 on Amazon. So it's worth the investment. It is expensive, but they handle your newsletter for you. They send it out. They answer for you. They handle contests for you. You have stuff on Facebook. They do a lot of promotion. They're great. Because Writerspace, and you can tell them I sent you because they just gave me a pony, okay? Like, yeah. They sent me a unicorn. It was so cute. No, they're really great. And there's some other companies that are like them. I have not worked with them. There's Fresh Fiction. I like the owners for that company. They're really nice. They're super duper smart and driven women, which I just love. Now, I'm talking from the romance side of things, and that's the reason I do that. We just had this conversation this week at our business meeting. She was at PNWA last month. Do you guys know what PNWA? Okay, it's Pacific Northwest Writers Association, and it is a group of mystery writers, thrillers. It's like the mass genre dude books.
They also have a lot of literary fiction.
And literary fiction, yes. They are not in the same business sphere as romance. Not because we're different genres, but because romance, and I'm sorry to say this, is just decades ahead in tech and in business compared to the other genres. And that is because it is such a huge market in the United States. We have to compete, and we have to compete with one another. We have to compete with mass market and traditional presses, because we make, $6 billion a year in the U.S. So it's real, okay? We make up 80% of the market. I mean, it's crazy. So we do take it very seriously. So the PR companies are the top-notch PR companies. Now, there's also independent PR companies that you can market with, and I can give you names later. But on the I Can't Afford It track of PR companies, Facebook is really great. Depending on what you're doing, if you're doing like a coffee table book, Instagram is great. I like Instagram anyways, but Instagram is really
The
good.
Indeed, so I live in New York, so it's probably a different market, but the indie public PR people that you can get, you have to spend at least $40,000 per 3 months.
That's
So it's
crazy.
like- yeah.
No, that is New York prices.
Okay.
So if you come back to Montana, we'll show you how to coupon. Okay, like, no.
Because most people, you look into it and you're like, oh.
Well, no, I mean, people are shocked when I say I spend $150 a month on PR. They're like, why? Right? And that's all that stuff for $150 a month, which adds up.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly. But when I have big book releases, I'll spend $1,500 in that company for that release, and then additionally, I'll do Facebook ads, and I'll do blog tours, and I'll do all the stuff. Blog tours are great. That you can do really, really cheap and on your own, and for free if you do it yourself. So blog tours, and I'm looking at one of my clients. Blog tours, what you want to do to kind of get your nose in there is to look at what your comparable author is doing. So you want to do a little market research and see where they're posting. Hey, I'm on Books and Spoons today. All the Harlequin authors are in there. So I know that we are well represented. I know that they like our style. So I know that they're going to give me a good review and good PR. But I wouldn't go to Kirkus. Kirkus is for literary fiction. Okay, Susan, that'd be a really good fit for you. Kirkus. Okay. But they are expensive. They're $1,500 to be reviewed, and that's no guarantee that they're going to
I
like
thought
it.
it was $375 right now for the coupon.
Well, coupon, yes, my Montana boy.
Yeah,
Yes. But yes, it varies. I mean, it can be super duper expensive. So,
But they're only literary, really?
well, they don't like romance authors. Okay. So anyhow, but yeah, kind of. There's free. There's $40,000 every 3 months. There's such a huge variable. Find what's right for you. Figure out what your budget is, and work with that. But don't be the author that spends $100,000 on their first book. Okay, that's it. Okay.
I did want
Or
to
takes
talk,
a $200 contract.
Right. Big pimpin', man.
yeah, I did want to talk a little bit about kind of more generalities around, most authors that I talk to have a day job. And I know that the goal for most authors that I talk to is to not have a day job and have their writing be their day job. Do you have any advice kind of in general at what point somebody can start looking at saying, okay, maybe I can take this leap and go out on my own? Because, I mean, the easy thing to say would be once your income from your writing generally matches your income from your day job, you can jump. But what else do you need to be thinking about in those terms?
Right. If you compare those two, it's not really apples to apples, right? Because you're also assuming additional expenses as a business owner now, because you're not just a writer, you're a business owner. A good rule of thumb is, and something that I didn't touch on earlier, I'm glad it's coming up, is when you're budgeting out and taking a hard look at your expenses, siphon them out and determine which ones are mandatory. That's your rent, that's your mortgage, that's your electricity, that's your insurance, right? Probably looking at 6 months of an emergency fund, right? Emergency fund is all of your expenses in the bank in savings, easily accessible. So 6 months of all of your expenses, just you, not the business, right? That would probably be my starting point. 3 months if you wanted to be a little less conservative. Starting a business can be difficult because there's all the unknowns, and especially if your income's fluctuating month to month. So you want to have a baseline savings account to be able to pull from. With that said, then you start doing the budgeting, right? You anticipate what your expenses are going to be, and you add that into that bottom line number. That'd give you a pretty solid starting point of when you could anticipate being able to quit that day job.
And I think maybe one of the expenses, if you're married, should be anticipating the counseling that you're going to need.
Yeah. That's where you read a bit.
And I would say that's not unique to writers, that's anyone going into business for themselves. They
And-
go through that.
And then the other question is, because when you do have a day job and somebody else who has an accounting department and whatever is managing all these things for you, one of the things that's easier to not have to actively think about but still do is put money ahead toward retirement. So how do you do that when now suddenly it's all on you to think about retirement?
Mm-hmm. Earlier I said think in percentages, right? Some of the percentages that I wrote down are if you're putting 20% away for taxes, 10% away for retirement. That's pretty low. I'm gonna get pretty honest and real with everybody for a second, and especially the ladies in the room. 10% for retirement is on the low side. 12% is what we're starting to hear, and 15% for women because we live longer. Our money has to last longer. Social Security is not looking positive right now. Don't count on Social Security to be there for us, right? You have to start saving for yourself right now. I know.
Did everybody just clench in their
I know. I know. This is where it gets a little heavy. I actually was just reading in preparation. I have a couple different presentations. I'm getting varying statistics, and my statistics are coming from big resources: the New York Post, Washington Post, the New York Times, Forbes. U.S. Census Bureau is always a couple years behind. 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 are the statistics that I continually am catching. 1 in 4, 1 in 3 Americans are not saving for retirement right now.
Like at all?
At all.
At all.
So I'll let that sink in for a second. So in terms of what that looks like for Social Security to be around, right? Not looking good. There's also some statistics out there, some reports that by 2026, they will have used up the majority of the trust assets and start dipping into principal. So that's not going to last much longer either. That has to do with, we used to say people living longer, so those benefits were having to last longer, and it actually has to do with a decrease in the birth rate. There's not as many of us working professionals to pay in to support that. The average birth rate went from 3 children to 2 children in a household, so those are workers that would be paying back in to support those going into retirement.
Well, I did my duty. I had 3, so.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I think you should go for a fourth just for me.
No, remember that counseling that we were talking about? It's going to be inpatient counseling.
So that's all really heavy, and oftentimes when I'm meeting with clients, that's the point where they're like, wah, 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 in the meeting of like, why am I even here then? So 10% is your target, right? 12 to 15 would be ideal. Start with what you can. If it's included in your budget, if you're looking at it in terms of percentages, when you're getting the contracts, you're on the right start. So if you initially begin with 1% or 2%, hey, you're doing better than that 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, right? Stay positive with it. That's going to be the key, is just getting your mentality around. Now you're a writer, but you're also a business owner, and there's just some additional responsibilities that you have to consider. And then ratchet it up, right? As your career takes off, as your writing continues, bump up those percentages. And then you're going to be doing what you would if you were employed elsewhere. Does that help?
That helps.
So what do you do with that money? Like, let's say you could do 10%, like, yeah, totally, that's what would happen.
I'll,
You just
$2
put
of
it
it.
in my $6.93.
Right.
Would you put it in a separate bank account? Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah, how do you invest that to make the most of it?
Yeah, so it's, the answers to those are somewhat dependent upon everyone's
Lottery
unique.
tickets.
I'm with you.
But I've heard of like IRAs, you
Yes,
know, and like
yes.
those types of things.
Doesn't it depend on how risk sensitive you are?
Oh, these are all, there's so many moving pieces now.
Yes.
Put in something? Now, if you have a mortgage, so why don't you take that extra, say, you have $500 net per week, you're getting $200 a month. Why not stick that $200 on your principal, because your interest rates may be between 4 and 6%, where if you put it in a CD, it's only 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
So knock that principal. This is what I've done.
Yeah.
Okay, my houses are paid for.
Right.
Everything's, my own is paid for.
So you are an investor that has had success with real estate, intangible real estate, it sounds like.
I don't know if I'm not making any money off of it right now.
Right,
but
right.
Somebody says it's worth this much, but I haven't seen a reply on it.
Yeah,
But that's what I did. I took that, because I looked at the CDs and investments and bonds, and
Yeah.
I saw maximum 3%. And that's if you hung it in there for 25 years.
right.
You know.
I love to tell the story of when I bought my first house. Neither of my parents had bought a home in over 20 years. So my points of guidance and resources were counseling me on information that was way past. And I remember meeting with the mortgage lender and them telling me this is the lowest rates will ever be. And I sold my first house 18 months later, and I met with the mortgage lender, and he was like, "This is the lowest rates will ever be." And then another like year and a half later, I called my lender and I was like, "The rates are the lowest they're ever gonna be, right?" And now those rates are starting to creep back up, right? Interest rates are coming back. Does everybody have a solid handle on gross versus net? I think that's a good starting point, right? In order to have net $200 a month, you have paid all of your expenses, and that's what you have left over. If the net 200 is what you're looking to invest in retirement or save for retirement, you're absolutely right. It's unique to each individual's risk tolerance. There's also the other concept of diversification, which means that you do not want to have all of your eggs in one basket. Consult with a financial professional just to get guidance on that. And there's actually a lot of free resources out there that can give you a little bit of information before you walk in to meet with a professional like myself. In terms of the types of accounts, there's IRAs, there's traditional IRA and Roth IRA. IRA stands for individual retirement account. Then there's also retirement plans that you can implement as a business owner. That would be a SEP IRA or a simple IRA, and most commonly what most people hear about and what the media blasts is 401k plans. All of that is just referencing different sections of the IRS code. Again, I'm a financial professional, so I'm just gonna give that shout out of I believe in financial professionals. This is what I've built my career on. I think having trusted advisors, attorneys, CPAs, editors, can save you a lot of time, and time is extremely valuable to you when you're starting your own business. Probably one of the most simple, basic steps would be the IRA. Roth IRA versus traditional IRA is unique to where you're at. And it also is unique to your age and how much you're looking at and owing for taxes. So that's like very high level. I'm not going too deep because I could.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Does that help?
Thank you, yes.
So how did the new tax laws then change all of this stuff, or do they change it all?
This is so much fun. Once again, I am not
You
a
are
CPA.
CPA, okay.
And it's
Got
good,
it.
I point that out because it's good to know that a financial advisor is not a CPA, right? So my interpretation right now, because I have a lot of CPAs and accountants as friends, is that it's changing daily, weekly. 2018 is going to be a game changer in terms of what that looks like for small businesses. So I think just keeping touch with whoever you consult with, reading as much as you can that's available, reaching out to peers. Somebody said that earlier, and I really like that because I think, right, you can learn a lot from somebody that's already been through the ringer, who's kind of had some of those faults and figured it out, trials and errors. But 2018 is a game changer, so it's tough to say what that's going to look like. Yeah,
Wild card.
sorry, I know that was a political answer. But
No,
it is.
I talked to a senator the other day, and he was like, wild card. The
Yeah.
whole year is gonna be, the whole rest is gonna be wild card, so don't, be smart. Yeah. Don't be smart, be smart. Don't make bad decisions. This is why I need an editor.
And this is one thing that I do want to mention, a little bit of a tangent here, is one of the reasons we created this panel or this workshop is because we very strongly feel that to be your most successful self, you should surround yourself with people who know their stuff and can help you. Just like you wouldn't want to publish a book without a good editing team, you wouldn't want to publish a book without help from marketing folks if you're not a good marketer. We feel like the finance part of writing is something that nobody ever really talks
It's a
about.
dirty secret.
It's a dirty secret, and finance in general is so sensitive that we think that it would be really valuable for people to start having real conversations
You're
about
supposed
what
to
this
just
means.
do it for the love of writing.
Right?
I already got over that.
Yeah, good.
I'm working on trying to get it sold.
Right, exactly.
Tell me something, how do you go about finding an agent?
Oh, that's a good
Okay,
question.
I think last year we actually taught with, or 2 years ago we taught with an agent.
Mhm.
Yeah. Agents are great. I'm on my third agent. For the first agent you get, you just are trying to get your foot in the door. So it's because it's a good old boys club, it really, really is, like, it's who you know, it's who, and part of knowing people is getting your butt in a seat. Going out there and investing in yourself and going to the conferences and being visible and asking questions and being like, hey, what do you think about this? Because that will take you so much farther than dry querying an agent, because you saw them on what is it? What's the big one?
Oh, Publishers Weekly.
Publishers Weekly. There's another one too. but-
Publishers Launch.
Yeah, but that's not even the one I'm thinking of, but you know what all these are. Yeah, so Publishers Marketplace, PM. That's actually a really good place to research agents thinking about that. Thank you for bringing it in. Publishers Marketplace tracks all sales. So you can look at what I've sold to. I mean, it won't give you money, but there's a code to it, and you can figure it out.
If you get out there, you can also find out if the person that you're targeting is someone who actually fits what you want.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're looking at people on paper and you don't get their
Well,
personality.
usually what I've written to so far, I've looked at their description and it says mystery writing or romance
Right.
or so forth for children's book. Yeah, you know, I don't send my books to the children's book, right?
I would go to Publishers Marketplace and go, who is the best selling agent in my genre? And look at what they're actually selling, the titles they're actually selling, and the titles they've sold in the last 5 years. Does it match what you're writing? If it doesn't, get out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Because like there's agents right now, have you guys heard of the Gottlieb things going on? Okay, I won't go there then. Because that's like the
I
second
had my
tier.
curiosity, now it's gone.
You go Google it. It's pretty interesting. But it's there's also agents out there. There's one that we were just talking about. He got in a fight at PNWA. It was really interesting to watch. Who is a huge name? If you knew this name, I won't tell it because I don't want to name myself in any way. But everybody knows it. Name brand recognition, right? But look at his sales or their sales. Sorry. They haven't sold a book in 3 years. That wasn't their own.
Oh, their own book.
Yeah, so sometimes name brand recognition isn't key. It's who's really out there doing the legwork.
And then Claire had mentioned the other part of that is that this is a person who is supposed to be working in your best interest, and so you should make sure that you have a solid personal relationship with them
Yes.
too. It needs to be somebody you can have, you can feel comfortable with having a professional conversation, and you get that vibe from that you trust and that you like.
And they actually care about you.
Yeah.
Because
not
my
just
first
money.
agent was just money. I was like a knock on the bedpost, you know, kind of thing. And like the second one, it didn't fit. But the third one, she's like, hey, what can we do to get you ahead? Where's your marketing plan? Let's put a marketing plan together. Let's put this together. What are you thinking for the next 5 years? And that's the person you want. Because you want to be on that same page and that same level.
Would it be fair to say that you're viewing an agent as your employee?
Yes, absolutely. For
You're
me, I do.
paying them,
I do,
so
but some people forget that because they want to be in the door so bad.
But they're also gonna get very intimately acquainted with you.
Yes.
And so you want someone who you can trust not to tell details you don't want told.
Or take you in the wrong direction that doesn't match your marketing and business plan. Okay.
And I'm going to piggyback off of that to loop back around to the marketing question. I think the same holds true for most professionals. Go out there and interview people, right? Don't just jump at the first one. There's an awful lot of people right now marketing themselves as marketing professionals. I would dig a little bit deeper and find someone that can show you a portfolio that's specific to your industry, right? Ask for referrals. Ask for references that you can call. Like, don't be shy about it. This is your money. This is your dream. This is your time. So treat it like that. And I think sometimes that can be really tough for a new entrepreneur or a new business owner because it's really assuming a different role. But it's critical because I think that especially if you're looking at a long-term relationship, it's key. And you'll very quickly in that be able to identify if somebody's not a good fit for you, right? You'll have criteria and you'll just go, nope, move on.
But any reputable agent will say, go to my place or go to my postings on Publishers Marketplace. That's what they will answer. They don't need to send you to an author. They don't need to send you anywhere because they should represent themselves through their sales.
Good point.
Yeah. But great answer. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's interesting to be thinking of the folks that you work with as employees, since you are
Mhm.
a business owner.
You have an agent.
Who's paying them?
Who are, may I ask who you're with?
Gail Hoffman.
Okay.
So
Are you having a positive experience?
she's great.
Good.
She's great, but it's like in Times Square, and so it's like crazy to go see
Yeah.
her and stuff. But she's my third agent too.
Yeah, it happens.
So she's a good fit. My previous agent was a big crime thriller person, and he's really big in the field, but I write literary fiction, and he was always like, you should put a murder in your book. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And so this was a better fit.
Mhm. And that's normal. But with
But
that,
it is hard to have the confidence to think, wait, I'm giving them 15% of my stuff, so they need to meet
Yeah.
some standards for me, rather than, because we all feel so small in this field, I feel like.
yes.
You know.
Exactly. It's so competitive. And you know that you're just a cog in the wheel when you're in traditional publishing. Because if you don't produce, somebody else will take your spot, trust me, instantly. But yeah, but it is really, really important to remember that they're your main employee, actually. So if you're even like, sometimes I'll call my agent and be like, hey, I'm just feeling down, I'm not being productive, what can I do? She'll give me heads up. Be like, hey, this is what you need, this is what I want to see from you by the end of the week, because I'm goal oriented. And so she's there, like almost as my weight loss coach, right? Like she is so there, and that's what I needed, was somebody like that. With your first agent, just focus on getting their foot in the door. The best way to do that is, like I said, go and meet them in person. When you write that query email to them, put, if you have actually met them, say requested material. Because if you just dry query people, they are never gonna open it. I actually read for an agent for a long time, and like, I don't care. Like, we were getting 10,000 emails a day. Like, I'm gonna look for the ones that stand out and have that best first line, and don't make fun of an agent. Don't make fun of, okay, like even if you think you can, if you wanna come off as really personal, don't do it. It can be misread. What else?
Don't corner them in the bathroom.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that to
Slip your
editors either.
manuscript under their door.
Don't bribe them with cookies and candy and lollipops.
Stick
They
it in a
don't like that.
pizza and send it to them.
Yes, yes, but they're real people too. If you get to know them, they're great. They are fantastic people. They know their stuff and they're fun to be around. So that's the best advice I can give you, is get to know them, and find the one. So like if you're looking for, I won't say Gottlieb, but that's right. It's right on my head. But let's say you are looking for Gottlieb, okay, and you know he's going to be in Seattle in October. Go to Seattle. Sit down with him for 15 minutes and be like, hey, let me buy you a whiskey. Let's go. And just chat.
Yeah, it is always about the drinking afterwards, it seems like.
So no lollipops, no candy, but whiskey.
Whiskey.
Whiskey, wine. Wine goes along. Scotch. Scotch in New York.
Top shelf.
Yeah. Any other questions about agents? Okay. You should never, ever, ever, ever pay an agent. Okay? People still forget this a decade later. It was still a thing 10 years ago that you did not pay agents, but people are like, well, what if I, and I'm like, no. It comes out of your checks, and you should have split accounting. Some agents are still retro where they don't do split accounting, and I don't like that. That's where a publishing house will send them the whole check, and then they send you a chunk. So instead of getting paid instantly through your direct deposit, you're getting paid 6 months later, and I hate it. So don't do that. Have them pay you separately. Split accounting. Questions?
Oh, you do audible versions of your books?
I don't own the rights to my traditional stuff. Oh, thank you for the question though. That's really great. Do you do Audible yet?
They did for my first book, and they didn't.
They don't have a high sale rate, and the cost in doing it is really high right now.
Unless you do it 50-50 with.
Yeah, but you have to negotiate with your narrators, and you have to do the whole thing. So we met with ACX in. Thank you. Sorry, she's in a meeting, guys.
I'm sorry.
We met with ACX in, where was it? Reno?
RT. Yep.
Yeah, in Reno this year. And they're going places. I would strongly recommend ACX and Audible. They're on the uptick. We are actually partnered, our companies, SPS, Self Publishing Services, is partnered with Draft2 Digital. Have you guys ever heard of it? Okay. Draft2 Digital is out of Oklahoma. They're a fantastic company. We teach with them in Seattle, and we will teach with them, with actually Erin, this fall. But They are a distribution company. So what they do, and Rita's been through this process, but instead of just going with Amazon, D2D, if we put your book in there and upload it to that platform, they go to Barnes & Noble, they go to iBooks, they go to all the other places.
Try to
Okay?
space that one out.
Draft digital.
Drafting digital?
Draft to
The
digital.
number 2.
Tuesdays.
The other thing that I really like about Draft to Digital is they have UBLs. UBLs are universal book links. It was kind of funny, I get questions a lot as a business owner, hey, can you send me all your individual links, all my individual links for my books, wherever they can be found, and I just send them UBL. I'm like, here you go. Like, it's one link for everybody. So when you're advertising on Facebook and stuff, you can actually make the link personal to your title of your manuscript or your book. So like, what is your book called, Susan?
The Flicker of Old Dreams.
Okay, so if you put that in, it goes books2read.com/that title. Okay? So not only are you getting one single link to all of your sales platforms, POS, point of sales, you also get the SEO behind it. So your book has more street cred on Google. Okay, so that helps you on Amazon, and that helps you on Barnes & Noble. So like if you can create those links within your website when you're marketing on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever you're using, use that title, use it, okay? Create that buzz for your book organically that way. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, we are getting close to the end, so if anybody's
I-
got-
Did I have that name, that agent, like, murder books?
I have one. So back to your $5,000 example. So you get that, you go through the process, you meet the lawyer, you sign the contract, and then you get the money per se. Are you then at that point, you set up a business under like your name or whatever, and that works with the agent? Like, how does that work for your?
So I set up my business license and my PIN before I ever signed with anybody.
Okay, okay.
So I could run my taxes that way, and I set it up as an LLC, which is really a good deal for me. Now, I've gotten in so many fights about LLCs, it's not even funny, with lawyers.
Okay.
Because I'm like, well, it gives you a level of protection. The only way, and this is why I always get in trouble, the only way it can actually provide you a level of protection is if you completely separate your assets. Because then they can't, like if you were accused of plagiarism, they can't come after your house, okay?
Okay.
But an LLC, in the grand scheme of things, you probably can't separate your assets if you're a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do this really fast.
Yes.
Okay. But what it does do is help you on taxes.
Yeah.
For sure, like 100%. So do an LLC if you guys are setting up your business license. Do not do it as a DBA, don't do it as a sole proprietorship, do it as an LLC, okay? All right. Thank you guys so much.